Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Every Horror Movie on Netflix, the podcast where we watch, review, and discuss every horror movie on Netflix. I'm Patrick, and I'm back with Allison with a Y.
Hello.
And Allison with an I.
Hey.
And we are here today to review a movie that I picked last time, A Haunted House, 2013 parody of the Paranormal Activity franchise. Somebody asked me the obvious question.
Patrick.
Yes. Allison with an I.
What inspired you to choose this movie for us to watch?
Is the translation of that, why the hell did you pick this piece of shit?
What were you thinking?
I mean, I think we know why you picked it.
So, I mean, as I said last episode, y'all came out the gate swinging with some heavy hitters. You know, Allison with an I picked Bone Tomahawk. Allison with a Y picked The Autopsy of Jane Doe. And like we said last time, like those are both, like, at the very least, competently made movies. Even if you didn't like the movie, it's well done. Somebody knew what they were doing there. And having done this for 7 years, that's not the norm.
Are you accusing this film of not being competently made, Patrick?
Oh, don't tip your hat towards review it just yet, Allison. But over 7 years of doing every horror movie on Netflix, I have encountered a lot of trash, and we're going to encounter a lot more trash on the way. So I was like, you know what? Let's do a horror comedy that has a 10% score on Rotten Tomatoes, because that's a little more par for the Netflix scores.
Yeah, for sure. Sure.
So what is A Haunted House about? Again, a parody of the Paranormal Activity franchise. We got a couple who is haunted by a ghostly entity. This couple is Keisha, who's played by Essence Atkins. She moves in with her boyfriend Malcolm, played by Marlon Wayans, for the first time. And the two of them document everything found footage style, just like in the Paranormal Activity series, as some kind of ghostly entity starts fucking with them in Malcolm's house. They're using Malcolm's new video camera and a series of cameras that's placed around the house by a couple of security experts / ghost hunting TV show hosts that they hire. They're played by David Koechner and Dave Sheridan. And the plot is kind of just this mixture of over-the-top bawdy comedy skits and parodies of scenes that are just lifted basically directly from the Paranormal Activity franchise. Our lead couple crosses paths with a motley crew that includes Chip, who's a horny gay psychic, played by Nick Swardson. They cross paths with horny swingers, played by Andrew Daly and Alana Ubach. And, of course, the horny priest, Father Doug Williams, who's played by Cedric the Entertainer, as they attempt to rid their house of paranormal activity. So I feel like the natural starting point here is, this movie relies so heavily on the Paranormal Activity franchise. Came out 2013, like at the height of the popularity of that franchise. How do we feel about those movies to begin with? Like, Allison with a Y and I have watched all of them for this podcast.
I mean, I love the original Paranormal Activity movie, and I can find merit in in 2 and 3 as well. So, I mean, theoretically, I think because they're so distinct, I think it is like it's ripe for parody. I don't know. I'm not going to say yet whether I think it should be parodied, but it certainly lends itself to parody.
Mm-hmm.
I love these movies as well. Mm-hmm. I love a good found footage movie. I love ghost stories.
Yeah.
Allison with a Y and I have all those ghosty things in common that we've bonded time and time again offline over. I thought they were really well done. I don't think I've seen past 3. Maybe I've seen 4, but it's not I can't recall even what it's about or or what the premise is.
I have seen it and I can't remember.
Yeah, well, that's Patrick style, right? We're coming to remember
true. That's not really unique for me.
So yeah, I mean, I went into watching this movie, first of all, thinking that I had already seen it, and I remembered very little of it. So I either saw it when it first came out and totally forgot about it, or hadn't seen it. and had only seen the highlights somewhere.
Oh yeah, this like refreshes my memory that at the end of last episode, when I said the movie, I think your exact words were, "I love this movie."
I think that I thought it was something else. I don't know if I thought it was like Scary Movie. I knew it wasn't Scary Movie. I knew it was like Scary Movie. But I think that I thought I was thinking of something else.
Yeah. It is very like Scary Movie. Like the tone is.
It is
100% that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I mean, it's the same people too, right?
Is it? I actually don't know. I'm not like well versed in the Scary Movie
am.
universe.
Almost positive Marlon Wayans.
There's a lot of Wayans activity in those movies, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I assumed it was just the same people. I mean, I know he produced this movie, so yeah, I think it's some of the same people at least.
The director of this, I think his name is like, I forget his first name, but his last name is Titties, Tiddes. And I'm normally a very refined Michael Titties, and I'm normally a very refined person who wouldn't laugh at a name like that. But like the movie just put me in the
That's
zone.
perfect.
Like after sitting through the tone of this, I was like, Michael Titties, that's funny.
Oh, Michael Titties has directed multiple Marlon Wayans films.
Oh,
Films, capital F films.
with an F.
oh, they're buddies. Yeah, because they
We're
co-wrote
children.
this together, I believe.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but yeah, Paranormal.
We are children.
This is like the greatest gift of a director name since we reviewed, I think it was American Poltergeist, like way at the beginning of the podcast. And the director, I have no idea what his actual name was, but it was similar to Mike Wazowski. And so we just called him Mike Wazowski throughout the entire episode and for years to follow.
That's funny.
So now that I've revealed that I'm as immature as I could possibly criticize this movie for being,
Yeah.
I do love the Paranormal Activity movies. Like, I mean, longtime listeners of the podcast know that I've always said Paranormal Activity, the original, is one of the most scary experiences I've ever had in a theater. I was, well, not quite alone. I went with one friend, and we were the only two people in the theater. And when it cuts to black at the end, and then it's like, Katie and Micah were never seen again or whatever. And the moment of just black screen in the theater felt like it went on forever. And I felt like I was stuck in there with the demon or something. And I'll never forget that. Like that movie and the franchise in general will just hold a place in my heart.
Same here.
For that reason. Yeah.
Yeah. It was very much like how I felt after Blair Witch, which was obviously the first of its kind and took the whole world by storm. Like, but it was that same like novelty of found footage movies, but it felt like you were watching something you weren't supposed to. And like that feeling of being trapped, like you said, like you're like, and that's the way I felt after. I think we all, I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but like the first time I watched The Ring, I was really young and I was like, I have fucking 7 days, like I wasn't supposed to see this.
Right.
I'm in on this dirty little secret that I want out of.
Yeah. And that genre of things that feel like you're not supposed to be seeing them is honestly just like one of my favorite horror subgenres. If you can make me feel like I've seen something, like illicit or where I've sort of partaken in a curse or a haunting just by seeing it, that's what fucks with me the most. That's probably what gets the most genuinely under my skin.
Oh,
so
same.
props to this franchise alone for that.
That's my shit. My favorite podcast of all time is like a fictional horror podcast, and it does that too. And you're like, oh God, am I in this now?
Yeah.
Is this coming for me? Do I know too much?
Yeah. And then, like, the weird thing about the franchise, though, which is parodied in this movie, too, is that as it goes along, like, there's only so many gimmicks you can come up with to continue, like, building on this idea of, recording ghosts in your home with your own equipment. And the returns are diminishing over time. You can listen to our Paranormal Activity franchise review episode about that, though. But suffice to say, Allison with an I, you're not missing anything out of the 4 movies of the franchise.
Okay. I'll get around to him someday.
Those last 4 were pretty bleak from what I remember.
Yeah. You hope eventually at a certain point something like that turns around and there's some kind of somebody figures out something to do, and spoiler alert, nobody does.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I will say though, like, I mean, again, because they keep fucking with different conventions, like putting a camera on a fan or whatever. There are so many memorable tropes from these movies, and I think it's a perfect topic to parody. You know, I mean, Scary Movie jumps around through like, 10 or 12 different movies that they're parodying at least every installment.
Yeah.
And this mostly just kind of sticks to stuff in the Paranormal Activity movies because I think the material's there. Like,
Agreed.
Yeah, and there's a couple of, scenes where it's frame for frame the same.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The same thing. So they took some creative license with the comedy bits, obviously, but then some of the scarier parts with the time lapses of her standing by the bed, which was terrifying in the first movie.
So scary.
Was scary again in this one, you know, in a way that if you can remove yourself from the comedy of it all, it's still impactful because it's relatable. If someone were doing that next to my bed, I don't want to fucking know about it.
No.
Turn the camera off.
Nope.
I don't want to know.
It's terrifying in the movie, and yet also removed from that context, sort of silly. You know, it's perfect for parody again because it's like, okay, it's literally just a woman standing by a bed, sped up for a couple of hours, and objectively, it's ridiculous that you're even watching that, let alone that it's scary to watch. So again, I mean, it's sure, parody it.
Yeah.
But is it funny?
What do you mean?
I don't know. I mean,
Did we think it was funny?
Did you think it was funny? Did you laugh?
I laughed. I had a ton of fun watching
The movie?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, not Paranormal Activity. No, I mean, sorry. Yeah, I was pivoting back to a haunted house there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I tried to meet this movie where it was at.
Yeah.
And did I laugh out loud several times during it? Absolutely, I did.
Same. I had a ton of fun.
I did too. I'm not ashamed to say, like, I snorted a few times. I cackled a few times. I was like, sure, Paranormal Activity, but with fart jokes. I love a fart joke.
So
You know?
fun.
So many farts.
I
many
started
farts.
to count the farts thinking that they were going to like happen throughout the whole movie. And I was going to come to this with a fart count. Only 7. Kind of disappointing.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah.
That's still interesting to know.
They didn't
I
overuse
expected
the
that you would
farts.
lose.
Yeah, they just
count.
used it in one scene.
Yeah.
And I was expecting them to come back. So I started a count. And they kept it at 7 farts.
The scene where they're smoking weed in
That's-
the bed with the ghost.
Okay, that's my favorite scene.
I was dying.
Me too.
Oh,
That
that was
was-
some funny shit.
That was the moment that I was like, okay, this is funny. Like,
Yeah.
this is legitimately hilarious. And then when she pulled out the Ouija board in bed,
Yeah.
I lost my shit.
Totally.
Yeah, it's because again, it's funny, it's unexpected, it's good comedy because they're freaking out about a ghost in their house, and I think this is past the point where and both these characters are black, and at some point they say, "We're black. Why are we still hanging out in this house like a bunch of white people?"
Yeah.
And I forget, why does he have to stay there? There's some like little
He
plot
like
explanation.
pretends to try to sell the house. That scene was kind of like mushed
Yeah.
together. It didn't really make
Yeah.
sense.
Wasn't
He,
fully
like,
explained.
Packed the U-Haul. It didn't need to be explained.
Yeah.
It was
It just
implied
didn't
that
work out.
The market wasn't the right time.
Right, that's right.
They needed to stay there so that they still had a movie, basically. But the paranormal activity continues, and they have to stay in the house, and so they get spooked by the ghost one night, and they just like pull out the weed and get high as hell, and then the ghost like picks up you just see the blunt like float up, right?
And the lungs
Lungs fill up with the
expand. Yeah.
smoke.
Yeah. And it's hilarious.
It was
It was
hilarious.
legitimately quite funny.
That's great.
That was easily my favorite scene.
I really liked Chip. I really liked Nick Swartzen's character. Like, Nick Swartzen can do no wrong in my book. His character, Terry, on Reno 911 is forever one of my favorite of all-time comedy characters
gonna
that's ever been written.
Yeah, I was going to ask where I knew him from because I knew I recognized that name, but I couldn't place it.
He was also a stand-up comedian. I remember his stand-up comedy back when I was like in high school. I really liked it back then.
He was in a movie, Grandma's Boy.
That's right.
okay.
I forgot about that.
I know him best though from Reno 911, and that character, he's like the gay roller skater in Reno that like they're is constantly up to debauchery.
Okay.
And has so many amazing one-liners. And like in the Reno 911 movie, I'm getting off topic, but worth it.
Well, that's okay.
Paul Rubens plays his dad that bought him a jet for Flag Day. Like this is a reoccurring thing that Terry said. Like, my dad bought me a jet for Flag Day. And then we meet his dad in the movie and it's Paul Rubens. And you're just like, that is fucking perfect.
That's so great.
That's great.
Yeah. So I have a soft spot for Nick Swardson. And I thought his character Chip was hilarious and iconic and completely like over troped to death as like the token gay guy. But like, I don't know. There were a lot of gay undertones in this movie. There was a lot of like swingery things, gender bending and
gay panic, one might even say.
Gay panic, right?
Yeah. So I have some complicated feelings about Chip.
I do as well.
Because specifically because there is a fairly well-known paranormal investigator named Chip who is also gay.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, Chip doesn't deserve this.
Do you think it was parodied off of him?
I mean, at that point, he had been on multiple ghost hunting shows, paranormal investigation shows. And I love this man, Chip Coffey. If anybody out there loves to watch paranormal investigation shows, you probably know him. He is this wonderful, and he's older than Nick Swardson's character, but I'm like, I feel like that's not a coincidence that this gay paranormal investigator, well, not just paranormal investigator, but psychic, which is what Chip Coffey is, that the name is the same.
Yeah, so okay. I didn't pick up on that.
I feel a little protective of Chip Coffey just because I really love him, and I've loved him for a long time. And so I was like a little pick a different name. Don't do my man dirty. Come on.
Okay, I could see that. That scene where he kept being like, have you been with a man? And he gets him to answer a bunch of questions that the answers are obviously yes. Yeah. And then he throws in them by have you been with a man?
Yeah.
It's so funny. That was so funny to me.
I was just struggling with the stereotype of it all, which, there are many stereotypes in this movie. I don't know. Swardson was great. It's a good comedic performance. It's just, the lisp and the earring, and it's okay. In the year 2013, do we need to see this specific representation of a gay man again? Right.
It probably wouldn't happen now,
That's just me being medium woke, though.
You are being medium woke. I'm over here being, defensive of, one of my favorite, paranormal investigator mediums.
I think that's fair. I think that this type of comedy is how far can we take it, right? How far can we take everything?
I think that's the purpose of it.
That's the purpose of it. So I think it knew it was being political and it didn't give a fuck, which props.
And also watching it, I had to recognize, I was like, oh, this, as a white person, this movie wasn't made for me.
Yeah.
And kind of respect it from that sense where it's just there's going to be things that make me uncomfortable and I just have to be okay with it and recognize all right, yeah, this I'm not the target audience. That's okay.
Yeah. There were a couple moments where I was like, we can't say that word on the podcast when we're talking about this movie. But that's okay.
That's okay.
We're just, this wasn't made for us. No. I just feel lucky to be invited.
Just happy when I understand a joke,
Yeah. Yep.
Speaking of people who wanted to be invited, the whole bit with David Koechner, begging Marlon Wayans to let him say the N-word.
Oh my God.
That was hilarious to me.
Oh my God.
Yeah, again, it was pushing that boundary. How far can we go before we get the know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, a hilarious trope to harp on.
Yeah.
Because it's so real.
It is so real.
God.
Yeah, sadly, it's so real.
Yeah. A thing that I thought was hilarious was that the dog that dies almost immediately was named Shiloh. Just as a youth lit person who read the Shiloh series by Phyllis Reynolds Naylor growing up, in which a dog named Shiloh is in constant peril. And that had to have been intentional. That had to have been a reference. It seems like such a weird, deep cut for this movie
it's so
specifically.
Specific.
Yeah, but I cackled when I saw the dog's name was Shiloh.
I did not put that together.
Oh,
I just thought, what a shitty way to set the tone for your new girlfriend moving in. She kills your dog right away.
Yeah. All right, so we've established we got some laughs out of this movie. What did you find unfunny? We kind of, Allison with a Y and I kind of hit on why we had a complicated relationship with Chip the psychic for various reasons. Was there other stuff in the movie that rubbed you the wrong way?
For me, I think the scene with Rosa. housekeeper, that weirdo scene.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny up until the point where she was like, these motherfuckers think I can't speak English.
Yeah.
Right.
Funny.
Yeah.
And then there was a weird cut after that where she's got like 3 topless women like cutting up bricks of Coke on the kitchen table. And I was just like, that felt a little bit gratuitous to me.
Well, it's another reference back to Paranormal Activity. I think it's 3 because he puts the camera on the fan. So it's panning back and forth after our protagonists have left the house. Their Hispanic housekeeper is behind on her own. We've only heard her speak Spanish. And as soon as they leave, she cackles to herself and says something in English about how these dumb motherfuckers think that she only speaks Spanish. Like you said, Allison and I, funny. And then we just like devolve into like every other stereotype of what a Hispanic woman would do while like her employers are away, including like she's got these topless women packaging drugs. So she's like running a drug operation out of the house, and then she shoots somebody.
She's getting absolutely railed another time.
Yeah.
So weird to me. That felt unnecessary.
It did feel very unnecessary.
And up until then, there hadn't been like a lot of gratuitous nudity or drug use besides the weed. But like that just kicked it up to another level that I was like, you could have cut that out and the movie would have been just as funny.
Yeah.
If not like funnier, because there wouldn't have been a weird moment of what was that about?
Yeah.
It's because it's racist. It's fucking racist
It was
stereotypes.
racist, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I personally like the drug content or nudity or whatever in and of itself doesn't bother me. It was just that it was playing on this stereotype that she's Hispanic. Of course, she's running a coke operation where she's shooting, young women at her employer's kitchen table while they're gone. It's like, come on.
Yeah. And she swept all the dirt under the rug, and that really bothered me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not comfortable to watch, but also I had to remind myself, I'm like, this is what these movies do, and they're very honest about them. Like a lot of, the scary movie and stuff, they will poke at a lot of racial stereotypes. Would I make the movie? No. That's all I'm going to say about that.
I think the cousins who are like gang affiliated didn't hit for me. I didn't laugh hard about them. I was just kind of like, okay, I see why they would write that in, but I didn't find it funny.
Yeah, like his cousin Ray Ray comes over to help with the ghost, and Ray Ray's got a do-rag, and all of Ray Ray's boys have like the exact same do-rag and the exact same outfit, and all behave like the exact same, stereotypical way. And then they get scared by all the like shit falling. Again, a great reference to one of the movies where I think, isn't it all the furniture like
was on the
floats
ceiling.
up to the ceiling and then drops on Ray Ray and his friends' heads, and they're like, getting the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Fine, I guess. I did laugh at that joke about the furniture falling.
Same.
But yeah, like again, the like Ray Ray from prison kind of stereotype. It's like, okay.
It was another one of those like, oh, this joke is not for me. So I'm just going to sit here and watch it.
Yeah. And I did laugh when the furniture fell because I was like, that's an effective paranormal movie type trope.
Yeah,
like furniture falls from the ceiling. I think when they showed up again later in the movie, when they are all in the garage, which I don't feel like I'm at liberty to talk about. I was like, that is completely unnecessary.
Yep.
Spoiler room material.
Yeah.
Spoiler garage material.
Spoiler garage.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. There's also there's like a weird flashback to Keisha's youth where fucking
that was weird.
JB Smoove is playing her dad, and there's just what I can only describe as child abuse humor. That was kind of weird too. I don't know. There's just for as much as I was surprised that I laughed at this, there's a lot of stuff that's just like, didn't hit, and it's like you had to go there for a joke.
Kind of cringy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, rape humor. There's 2 different, like, we can only say it's rape. Like, there are 2 ghost rapes in this movie that are played for humor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't need to see Marlon Wayans getting anally raped by a ghost. Like, that's not funny.
Yeah, I think that second scene where he was raped
That was a lot worse.
It was a lot worse.
Yeah.
And it kind of lost its funny for me by then.
Yeah.
Like the first one kind of worked because then when she realized it was a ghost, and she was like into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like put on her sexiest stuff that she hadn't worn at all when she had moved in with her boyfriend. And then, you know, it added a little like richness to the story. But his felt... His
was a bridge too far.
It was. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That being said, can I share a story about a ghost sex story that I've heard before?
Sure.
Please.
Okay.
Wow. This is unexpected.
Sorry. So, as you may or may not know, when I was in my early 20s, I was a ghost tour guide. And there was one of the stops on the ghost tour was known for having a ghost who was thought to be a lady of the night. And she had a very specific room. It was an old bed and breakfast, actually the oldest still operating bed and breakfast in the state. And it was rumored that she didn't love it when women were staying in her room, especially if they were staying with men. But if single men were staying there, it was said that they would have experiences that, you know, made them feel like they needed to leave a little extra tip on the nightstand before they left.
I want to go back to the ghost rape in the movie. It's just like, I don't know, you know, as y'all were saying, the first one hits in a different way because she likes it. I mean, there's still so much like consent violation there, but
Yeah,
but
for sure.
like, I don't know, especially when it gets around to Marlon Wayans getting raped by the ghost, it's just, I don't know, it's just gay panic shit because it's like, it's supposed to be funny,
right?
that this guy is being fucked in the ass by a ghost because it's gay, and being gay is funny because being gay is weird. You know, it's just, I don't know, it just rubbed me the wrong way.
I think the only thing that it could have added, and I thought about this afterward, was the next time I think, and I thought that they would follow up with Chip asking him again if he'd been with a man and him having to answer yes, right? Like that would be a callback. And I don't even think they did.
No,
I don't think they did.
So.
And I was like, then that was a missed opportunity. What was the point of that?
Yeah, that is like sort of perfect setup and payoff. That
and the only one, and
huge
it's minute.
missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Come on, Michael Titties, do better.
With a name like Titties.
It has to be good.
I didn't know where I was going with that, so thank you.
Oh boy, were there any other like standouts in the cast for y'all?
I mean, low key, I kind of loved the swinger couple for a lot of it.
Really? Okay.
I just thought that like it was just the hilarious like white like middle-aged swinger couple.
Bored.
It was very stereotypical, and it was a stereotype that I found extremely entertaining.
Yeah.
It was like, I can laugh at that.
Yeah. So I kept having a thought when I saw the wife, the actress, I can't see her name right now.
Alana Ubach.
Was she one of the girls in the choir of Sister Act 2?
She was.
Oh my God.
Yes,
I was like,
she
how do
was.
I know her name? How do I know her name? And then I'm like, that girl was in fucking Sister Act 2 that I watch religiously. It's like one of my all-time favorite movies. But man, to see her grown and horny as fuck.
Very, very, very horny.
Very horny. But that whole middle-aged white California bored couple trope was so relatable.
So funny.
And they were funny.
It was fine. It was just overplayed for me.
It was.
It was like, okay,
I
I get
agree.
it. I get it. Sure.
I mean, it all was overplayed. Though.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah.
That's kind of what I meant. Like these types of movies, I feel like the horse is so dead, but they're still kicking it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not funny anymore. But they're like, cool, we reached the threshold.
Yeah.
You know, of now we've annoyed you with this.
The dog named Shiloh is dead, but they're still kicking it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean they did what they were supposed to do. I just got bored of it, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Any other like actors that stood out to y'all?
I thought Cedric the Entertainer was hilarious.
I mean, Cedric the Entertainer was Cedric the Entertainer.
He always does what he's supposed to do.
I don't know the last thing I've seen him in, or I don't even know. You know, outside of comedy, like stand up, or he's in like a comedy special with other comedians. I'm like, have I ever seen him in a movie before? Yeah. He was so funny, and he brought the heat as just like the gravitas that he has as an actor. It's just amazing.
I like how they save him for the end too. It's like, you know, like a Marvel movie or something, like Cedric, like the end of Endgame, like Cedric Entertainer steps through the portal.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Oh, it's such a great move to make him the priest.
Yeah.
Like that was solid move.
The prison priest.
The prison priest. That's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, that brings us essentially to the, you know, kind of the final proceedings here. And, you know, as far as the spoiler room today, we always save the spoilers for the spoiler room. And it's like, it's fucking a haunted house. Who really gives a fuck? But just like for the sake of the convention of the podcast, we'll have a spoiler room today.
Garage.
But, I mean, before we get into the spoiler zone, you know, like, as I said, this movie has a literal 10% score on Rotten Tomatoes. Deserved or not?
I feel like it could be a 20%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Right?
10 seems a little overly bleak.
Right.
Yeah.
10 seems low. If you go into this movie wanting horror, you're going to give it 10 or less.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If, like Allison said, you go into the movie asking the movie to do whatever it's trying to do, and expectations are not a lot, I don't know. I would have given it a higher score, but I don't know who's rating it, you know, or what they wanted out of it.
Yeah.
It does seem low.
Well, and of course, you know, Rotten Tomatoes is based on somebody who decides individually if each review on Rotten Tomatoes is positive or negative, and then it's just generated that way. So it's, you know, as unreliable as any metric, but it's kind of the common metric of our time. 10% does seem low. I don't know that I would expect it to have a whole lot higher, but 10 is pretty crushingly bad.
Right. That's like, I did not laugh at all in this case.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I see that they edited together a film.
Yes.
So I'm going to give it 10%. Like, that's something. What that feels like.
Right.
Yeah, agreed.
There's a sequel to this movie. A Haunted House 2.
Please tell me it's not on Netflix.
Oh, actually, and that's an interesting fact. You know, if you're listening to this episode and you're like, I want to see the weed smoking ghost, do it fast, because this is leaving Netflix on February 28th. I think the day after this comes out. Yeah.
Whoops, hurry up, everybody.
And I think I think 2 is on there as well. So if you want to do the franchise watch, hurry up. Would either of you seek out the sequel? I would not. I'll just say I wouldn't.
I don't think I would.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to do it soon so that there was a little bit of momentum from watching it and then us talking about it today. But if too much time goes by, like, we all have terrible attention spans anyway. But I would say if I don't watch it in the next week, it's never going to happen for me.
Yeah.
I will die having never seen that movie.
Well, if you do, please come back and tell us about it, because it sounds like neither of us is going to do it.
Might be on a horror recap coming up in a couple
of
weeks.
Exactly. Well, I think it's about that time to review it. Do either of you have anything else you want to throw out about this movie before
I'm ready to review?
Yeah,
right.
No, I think we've got it covered.
All right. Allison with a Y, do you want to kick us off? Would you say view it, cue it, or screw it to A Haunted House?
In the spirit of always trying to meet movies where they are at and what their goal is, I'm going to give it a cue it. Because if you like dumb humor, if you're looking to just throw something on while you get high that you can just kind of giggle at in the background, pop off. Would I insist you watch this movie? No. But would I say you absolutely at all costs need to stay away from this movie? Also no. If this sounds even remotely entertaining for you, put it on your queue. And if you're feeling a little silly one night, just throw it on. Allison with an I.
I'm right there with you. I would put this movie in a cue it with movies like the movie How High, which it's like Method Man and Redman are in it.
Okay.
Yes.
It is I mean, a couple of my best friends from college and I would get together and smoke weed and just watch How High. Like until like we knew a lot of the lines, and it never didn't hit. Like it was always, I don't care if we just watched it a week ago, we're fucking dying laughing over it. I was going to say that the same thing as Allison, like put this in your queue of like movies to watch while you're high.
Yeah.
And you will not be disappointed. I mean, if you're easily offended, maybe don't watch it. If you can't jive with like some of the stuff we've talked about of them taking a politically incorrect theme too far, don't watch it. But if you're trying to just like smoke a joint, put something on, totally zone out, and like not have to follow plot very much, watch that shit.
We're not going to judge you.
No judgment here. We watched it.
You're welcome.
We chose to watch it.
We did. Patrick chose this movie.
I did.
So.
I did.
What about you, Patrick?
I have to give it a screw it.
I knew it.
So yeah, I laughed. Definitely, as I've described, there were things I laughed at. There were things I found funny. It's not a great movie overall. I can't. There's nobody that I'm going to say, yeah, go check out A Haunted House too. And especially again, just like some of the stereotypes, whether you're talking about stereotypes of gay people, Hispanic people, whatever. There's a lot of just kind of shitty shit in this movie that just rubbed me the wrong way. I'll still say again, liked it a lot more than I was expecting to, but it's just not something that I can recommend anyone devote time or space in their queue to. And also, it's just a law of averages thing. Like, we got 2 queues. I gotta drag the average back down.
You gotta drag it down.
Yeah, I gotta drag it down. This is every horror movie on Netflix.
Yeah, we can't be overly positive.
We can't be
here.
overly positive.
What is generosity on every horror movie on Netflix?
It's a new era, but it's not too new of an era.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
Indeed, let's not get ahead of ourselves because we still got a spoiler garage to go to where we are going to spoil whatever happens at the end of this.
Great.
If you want to know what that is, stick around. We'll be right back in a minute and tell you everything that happens at the end of A Haunted House. All right, we are back. We're in the spoiler garage to spoil everything about A Haunted House. And we're calling it the spoiler garage today because there's a particularly, I guess, memorable scene that happens in the garage. And it's referred to several times in the movie by a term that we're not going to say on the show today because there are some racist connotations to it. But there's a swinger party.
It's a gangbang.
We'll put it that way. Yeah, there's a gangbang in the garage.
Of the horny friend's wife who he's been trying to pimp out the entirety of the movie.
Yep, he's been throwing some hints at Malcolm the whole time, some thinly veiled hints.
Yeah,
that his wife likes certain characteristics that he has that the husband does not have.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's her birthday.
Oh my God. What the fuck?
What the fuck is that? Scared the shit out of me. I was about to run out of your house.
That's fair.
Except I would have had to run by whatever noise that was through the front door. That was really scary.
Just to explain what just happened, because we're absolutely leaving that in. When you have auditory content that good, you leave it in a podcast. Our very, very spooky black cat Hodor just had a hairball puke kind of moment, and that was the kind of the warning sign.
But he sounded like a demon coming up from the underworld.
He absolutely did. He
Thrice.
absolutely did. Yeah.
That was fucking terrifying. Thank God we're not talking about an actual scary movie.
Right?
Yeah,
I'd
seriously.
have pissed myself.
I would have been just out the back door.
If we were here like talking about
the front door.
The autopsy of Jane Doe, and you hear that in the background, it's
No,
like,
thank you.
Stanley, is that you? Did Stanley come back from the dead? Is that the cat's name?
Yeah, Stanley.
Yeah.
Classic have to run by the aggressor to get out the front door trope.
Yeah. But back to the gangbang. The white swinger wife has a fetish for black men, which is, another like not cool. I mean, that is actually kind of funny.
There's a scene in the garage, which is why we're calling it the spoiler garage.
Which is with who is she hooking up with in that scene?
It's like the
gang members.
Is it Ray and his
the
his
crew?
boys? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then at one point, prison priest Cedric wants to join in.
They have to pull him away.
They have to pull him away.
They got shit to do.
Yeah. Because this all takes place in the context of the exorcism.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Yeah, there's an exorcism taking place on Keisha. And there's a lot of like standard kind of like exorcist movies. Like I was wondering if there was a specific exorcism movie of the time that they were maybe like parodying.
They were. So first, do you remember that he starts reciting the Bible passage, but it's just Samuel L. Jackson's character from Pulp Fiction?
Yeah. That was pretty funny.
And then they inevitably end up with The Power of Christ Compels You, which I knew they were going to do.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows that one.
Yeah.
But it turned out that he was like a prison, barely ordained priest, pastor, minister.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what the fuck he was doing, shockingly. So it was a very amateur exorcism.
Right. Yeah. Because
everyone's just throwing shit at the wall, hoping something sticks.
The context for this climax is Keisha is quite well possessed at this point.
Quite well
possessed. Very well
Quite
possessed.
well possessed.
The first scene that we
Well and
see her
truly
possessed,
possessed.
though, is actually really funny.
Oh my God.
Where she's talking about her paintings.
Yeah.
She's her hair is really fried and frizzy, and she's like looks like she's covered in like a sort of powdery substance. Like she's meant to look like she's rotting or decrepit or something.
right.
Yeah, or like just like really, really dehydrated.
Yeah. And Malcolm's got her in a room by herself, but she's been painting, and she's made these kind of beautiful paintings. And I'm like, I kind of like that art, But Cedric, the entertainer's character, goes in and he's like, she is fucked up. But let's get the fuck out of here, man. Like, that's not your girl anymore. We got to go. Marlon Wayans is like, no, it's my girl. We got to help her. And so Cedric sits down and tries to like build rapport with her.
Yes.
Which is such a funny, weird break. In
because he just keeps calling her crazy bitch, right?
Oh God.
But she's showing him her paintings, and he's like, these are actually kind of fucking good. And they're like becoming friends at some point.
Yeah.
And then she takes off running. So they're chasing her around all over.
Yeah, and then like just chaos ensues. It's like like kind of tropey, shaky camera sort of thing in these found footage films, and that's when they run into the stuff happening in the garage, and then I think they make their way down to the basement, and that is just pure absolute chaos because Chip is also with them, and Chip has one goal in mind, and that is Malcolm.
Chip's like naked the whole time they're in the basement somehow.
Whole time.
Do you guys remember the scene though with the kind of like derpy cousin of the guy who's doing the paranormal show, and he's standing in the corner, a la Blair Witch.
Yeah.
But then it just turns out he's pissing in the corner.
Yeah.
That part made me giggle.
And I mean, the conclusion to this whole exorcism, like the way she's exorcised in the end, is they just kick the shit out of her.
Yeah, just absolutely like body slams.
Yeah.
Beat the demon out of her.
Basically, everybody
Literally.
teams up on her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like everyone we've seen in the movie, I think, practically, like just beats the hell out of her.
Yeah.
And that does it.
Seemingly
does it.
Until they basically fully restage the final scene of Paranormal Activity 1 for the final scene of their movie.
Yep.
Yeah, effectively.
Yeah.
She's still got a demon, and then like, well, we were trying to figure this out during the spoiler break. I thought there was another fart joke at the end. I think I just started like, I think this movie wore me down. There was the point where I was like, ha 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 ooh ha ha ooh ha ha ooh, and then like just my brain just started shutting down. I was like, I can't take in any more of this anymore.
Disassociating.
Yeah, exactly. I did start dissociating.
I think it was about 20 minutes too long. Like you could have cut 20 minutes of those.
Yeah, and it's an hour and 26 minutes or something.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. That's totally true. I think the absolute last scene was Malcolm thinks he got rid of her. So he realizes she's still possessed, remember? She runs away because the girl in the first movie ran away.
Oh, yeah.
At the end. And he goes up to the camera really close and he's like, she's fucking gone. I got rid of her.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she reappears.
She's
he
back.
sees her in the camera and she drags him out by the feet. And then she crawls up to the camera, or she smells him, which is what Katie did
Yeah.
Yup.
in the first movie. That's how it ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bye-bye, Malcolm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure he's back for a haunted house,
Oh,
too.
he's got to be.
He's got to be.
He's on the poster, so.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there you go. Talking about, this is not really like a spoiler moment, but a sequence in this that I found very funny was when they've decided to like combat the ghost or whatever by ignoring it.
Oh, I did like that scene.
That was very funny because they're just like sitting at the, you know, the kitchen island and like pots are falling around them and they're just like completely non-reactive, both because they're bored of the ghost shit and they've also decided to try just like not paying attention to it. Very funny, actually.
Yeah.
I had forgotten about that scene until just now.
Yeah, the cup flies off the counter and hits the floor,
like
and
a
they're just
coffee
like,
cup.
they're like, good thing we switched to plastic cups.
Yeah,
and then they
that's
just
right.
continue like reading their thing, and then
She's like, going to Starbucks. You want anything?
you know she's gonna make tea. She
Yeah.
goes to put the tea kettle on. The tea kettle flies across the room, and that's when she just pivots and like, I'm going to Starbucks. Do you want anything? And then his coffee cup flies off the table, and he goes, can you get me a latte?
Yeah.
Like it's just all this chaos, and they were just completely ignoring it, and that was legitimately quite funny.
That was
Yeah.
very funny. That's probably actually the funniest thing in the whole movie to me. Like that alone is like evidence of like there's talent here. There's talent, and
Yeah.
actually that's maybe where I get frustrated enough to give it a screw it because I'm like, you got this. Like you got this in you. Like you know, kind of let that bleed out into the rest of the movie instead of you know giving me jokes about housekeepers, you know, dealing coke out of the kitchen or
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know.
We didn't need all that.
No, we didn't. But that's what we got.
We did it.
We
did
did
it.
We survived.
We survived the haunted house. So let's see. What are we doing next episode? We're doing horror catch up next episode. Which again, kind of new thing for a new era. We used to do horror catch up at the top of every episode, but we're going to spend a little more time digging into what we've been watching and reading, listening to, experiencing in real life outside of what we're watching for the show on our next episode. And you're also going to find out on our next episode what our next movie we're watching will be. It's going to be a special extra chaotic pick because it's a Wheel of Death choice. So it's going to be a random movie from the Netflix catalog. You'll find out what that is next episode. Until then, as always, we want to encourage you to visit our website, everyhorrormovieonnetflix.com. Its main functionality at this point is to have a merch store link on it that you can click on and you can go buy t-shirts and other goods and sundries with every horror movie on Netflix art on it. I promise to you that after several years, the website that has been broken for so long that we've talked about how broken it is will be fixed relatively soon. It's not yet, but you can get merch there at least, so that's something. Also, go to your podcast provider of choice. Leave us a review. We love to see the feedback, and it helps people find the show. And lastly, we'd also love to talk to you on social media, and Allison with a Y can tell you all about that, where to find us.
You can find us at EHMONcast on Blue Sky on Instagram. We have a Facebook for every horror movie on Netflix, and we also have a TikTok, EHMON Podcast, or every horror movie on Netflix. Where we have been posting a little bit of content. We'll continue to post more. If you follow us and then want to give us some suggestions for things that maybe you would like to see on our TikTok page, we are super open to it and happy to see if we can deliver. Oh, and we also have a YouTube.
The YouTube is kind of a fun new thing because we just created that channel, and at the very least, at the time this recording comes out, you'll be able to access all the episodes of, again, this new era with your new co-hosts. But we're also in the process of getting literally every episode of this podcast up on YouTube, so you can check it out there too. We know that folks enjoy listening to podcasts on YouTube as much as other platforms, so we want to make sure that's available for you. We do have a Discord channel, really lovely community of folks from all over the world who enjoy talking about not just this podcast, but horror in general. And if you want to join us there, you can find a link in our show notes. The spiel is done. And we are done with a haunted house. So
We're done with a haunted house.
We're done with a haunted house. Well, Allison and I might not be.
I might watch the number 2. I'll
You might
report
watch
back.
too,
I'll
yeah.
report back.
Let us know.
Yeah.
We will see you in 1 week for Horror Catch-Up to talk about what we have been enjoying in the horror world outside of this podcast for the past month or so. Until then, for every horror movie on Netflix, I'm Patrick.
I'm Allison with a Y.
And Allison with an I.
And we'll see you next time.